If a dream ever tells you something you couldn't possibly know, don't assume you'll wake up safely from it. I thought I did. Until the morning I opened my backpack and found something that should have stayed in that forest. But back to where it started. I'd been hired to update trail data for Pine Reach National Forest, a quiet corner of wilderness reopened after a series of landslides. Easy gig, walk, record, map. I'd done worse jobs for less money. The only strange thing came from Ranger Collins, who checked my permit twice, then asked, "You're camping alone?" "Yeah, it's just mapping." "Then keep your nights short," he muttered. "People dream wrong out there." I tried to joke it off. He didn't smile. If his tone hadn't dipped on the word dream, maybe I would have listened. The trailhead felt colder than the town. GPS flickered, nudging my position left, then right. Like the forest couldn't decide where to place me. I chalked it up to interference and kept moving. By evening, I reached an old clearing marked inactive campsite. A rotten table, a dead fire ring, and silence heavy enough to press against my ears. I set my tent, ate, made a few notes for my podcast, and crawled into my sleeping bag. I don't remember drifting off. I only remember the moment the dream began, because it felt exactly like waking. I was in my tent, but the ground beneath it was uneven, rocky, the air sharper, too quiet. I unzipped the door. Across the clearing stood my campsite, my real one, exactly as I'd set it up. And yet, I was standing inside a second camp I had no memory of building. Same tent model, same backpack, same boots. But the backpack looked older, sun-faded, with a dent in the water bottle that I'd never made. A pulse of cold crept up my spine. I stepped closer to the original camp, reaching for the familiar pack. "Don't," someone whispered behind me. My voice. I spun around. A figure stood at the trees, my build, my jacket, my posture. But his face stayed swallowed by shadow. "You're early," he said. "Tomorrow, when you hit the boundary line, stay on the trail. If you step off, you won't wake up where you think." The two camps shifted behind me, sliding slightly, like images misaligned on a broken screen. "What boundary?" I asked. But he was already gone, dissolving into the dark like breath in winter air. I gasped awake. Morning light pushed through the tent fabric. Normal air, normal ground, one tent, one pack, no duplicate camp, no shadow self. I laughed under my breath, shaky but relieved. Stressed dream. Too much caffeine on the drive, that's all. Then I stepped outside and froze. In the mud beside my tent was a footprint, my boot tread, perfectly clear, perfectly fresh, pressed into the ground while I slept, in a spot I hadn't stepped once. The footprint should have been enough to make me turn back, but I told myself the same lie everyone tells in the woods. There has to be a reasonable explanation. I packed up, double-checked the GPS, and pushed deeper into Pine Reach. The forest felt attentive somehow, not hostile, not welcoming, just watching. The trail climbed slowly toward the boundary line Ranger Collins had mentioned. I kept replaying the dream in my head, trying to convince myself it was just stress. Dreams steal from your day, right? They don't predict it. But by noon, I found the first crack in that logic. The GPS map, freshly downloaded the night before, now displayed a thin gray trail veering east. A trail that wasn't there yesterday. A trail exactly where the second camp had been in my dream. I tapped the screen. The trail flickered, then stabilized. "Great," I muttered. "More interference." But I couldn't shake the sinking feeling that I was looking at something I wasn't supposed to see yet. By sunset, I reached a ridge overlooking a valley washed orange by fading light. According to my schedule, I should have camped lower, but the view was too good to pass up. I pitched the tent near a dead stump, recorded a short voice memo for the podcast, and really tried, to sleep without letting my mind drift back toward the dream. It didn't matter. The second night hit harder. I opened my eyes inside a tent again. But the fabric wasn't mine. It was older, patched in 2 places, and smelled faintly of smoke. My hands shook as I unzipped the flap. There it was. The second camp. No, not the same as last time. Worse. More lived in, more wrong. The fire ring was warm, though I hadn't lit anything before bed. My own pack lay in the dirt, but the zippers were rusted, and the shoulder strap had a tear I'd never seen before. Someone, me, had carved small marks into the picnic table. Tally marks. Dozens of them. A branch snapped behind me. I turned slowly. He stood at the tree line again, my silhouette, but not quite aligned, like a corrupted version of me. His jacket hung loose, dirt smeared across the sleeves. His breathing was off rhythm, strained. "You came back," he said. His voice cracked on the last word. "This is a dream," I forced out. "You're not real." He laughed, a hollow sound that didn't match my own laugh at all. "Dreams don't keep track," he said, nodding toward the tally marks. I started counting nights when I realized I wasn't waking up where you wake up. My stomach lurched. "What does that mean?" He stepped closer. "You think you're the original. You think you leave the forest and I stay." His eyes, my eyes, looked exhausted. But the trail rewrites us. It decides who wakes and who keeps dreaming. The ground shifted under my feet. The 2 camps slid again, that same glitching drift from the night before. Like reality was rearranging layers. I stumbled back. "I'm leaving tomorrow," I said. "This ends then." He shook his head violently. "No. Tomorrow is the boundary line. That's where it chooses. Stay on the path. Don't follow the gray trail. Don't look for me." The tents flickered, switching places for a heartbeat, swapping positions like the forest couldn't commit to a layout. "What happens if I do?" I whispered. He stared at me with a kind of quiet pity I couldn't stand. "You wake up somewhere, you can't leave." Darkness folded inward. The campsite collapsed into shadow. I jerked awake, gasping. Morning light, my real tent, my real gear, everything normal. Except my notebook lay beside me, open, to a page of tally marks, marks I didn't make. I left the ridge at sunrise, determined to shake off the dreams. The tally marks in my notebook felt like a bruise on my mind, but I forced myself forward. According to the map, today I'd reach the boundary line. And after 2 nights of seeing a version of myself I never wanted to meet again, all I wanted was to get out. The forest grew quieter with every step, not peaceful, expectant. Around noon, the trail narrowed. My GPS glitched between 2 points, one on the real path, one drifting toward that same faint gray trail from my dreams. I kept my eyes straight and my pace steady, but a flicker in the trees caught me, a clearing shaped exactly like the dream's second camp. I didn't stop. I didn't even breathe. I just pushed until the trail broke into a sandy trench with a faded sign, "Boundary line, authorized access only." This was the place he'd warned me about. I set camp early, hoping staying awake would stop the dreams. It didn't. The third dream snapped into place instantly. I stood in a clearing with only one tent, mine, but aged and patched like it had survived years, not days. Fog curled around the trees. A figure stepped out. Me, or what was left of me. "You crossed it," he whispered. "I told you not to." His voice sounded like static on an empty channel. "This isn't real," I said. "It doesn't matter what's real, only which version wakes up where." The forest around us flickered, multiple camps appearing and dissolving. Versions of my gear scattered in impossible layouts, like the woods were running through drafts, were trying to decide where to put me. "What do you want?" I shouted. "I don't want anything," he said. "I need you not to take my place." He stepped closer. His hand, cold and shaking, grabbed my wrist. "You'll wake up somewhere," he said, "but maybe not with the life you think you have." I yanked away. "Stop, you're just a dream." He leaned in, terrified. Dreams can't leave objects behind. Copies can. Fog swallowed him before I could speak. His last whisper echoed, "Someone always stays." The clearing folded into darkness, and I woke up gasping in my tent. Real tent, real gear, real morning. No more delays. I packed in minutes and hiked nonstop until I reached my car. The forest didn't fight to keep me. It didn't need to. The dreams followed me the entire way home. That night, in my apartment, I dropped my pack on the floor and unzipped it. Something slid out, a piece of fabric, old, patched, smoke-stained, the exact patch from the aged tent in my dream. My pulse hammered as I unfolded it. Inside, written in my own handwriting, "If you're reading this, I didn't wake up where you did." I staggered back. The map of my apartment on the wall, the one I made months ago, now had a new line on it, a faint gray curve that hadn't been there yesterday. A trail, leading from my front door, winding downward as if the building now had a basement I'd never seen. I dropped the patch. Maybe I didn't wake up in the right place either. If this story unsettled you, leave a like and let the shadows know. Subscribe for more tales you shouldn't hear after dark. And if you've seen something you can't explain, tell us in the comments. We're always listening.